Let's start at the very beginning, and I mean the very beginning. We're talking 25,000 years before young Anakin was pod racing on Tatooine. This is the dawn of the Jedi era, where everything we know and love about Star Wars basically got invented. Picture this: no Republic, no Empire, no Jedi Order as we know it. Just a bunch of Force-sensitive beings on a planet called Tython trying to figure out what this weird energy field is that lets them move rocks with their minds. According to the official timeline from StarWars.com, this is when the Republic is founded among the worlds of the galactic core and the Jedi Order emerges to protect it. Now, here's where it gets juicy. James Mangold, yep, the Logan director, is making a movie about this era, and he's described it as a biblical epic about the first Jedi to wield the Force. His pitch? Think the Ten Commandments, but with lightsabers. Well, proto-lightsabers. Maybe just glowing sticks at this point. This era is so ancient that the Legends continuity, that's the old non-canon stuff for you newer fans, had these proto-Jedi called the Jedi Order who believed in balancing both light and dark sides of the Force. Wild, right? But don't expect the new movie to follow that exactly. Disney's been cherry-picking the best bits from Legends like a kid at a candy store. In the old Legends timeline, the Jedi lived on Tython, a planet strong in the Force with two moons, Ashla, light, and Bogan, dark. When a Jedi fell too hard to either side, they were sent to meditate on the opposite moon to restore balance. Imagine that, instead of "you're evil now, time to fight," it was "you're unbalanced, go sit on the moon and think about what you've done." This philosophy was completely different from the strict light side only approach we see in later eras. The Jedi even used metal swords infused with the Force before lightsabers were invented. Talk about old school. The big question everyone's asking: how different will the Force look 25,000 years ago? Will we see the first lightsaber ignition? The first Force push? The first time someone used the Force to grab the TV remote? Okay, maybe not that last one. As one analysis notes, going back thousands of years puts a lot of pressure on the filmmakers to deliver an era that makes sense for the fictional world to feel far removed enough and still capture the feeling audiences want from a Star Wars installment. Fast forward a few thousand years and we hit the Old Republic era, the longest period in Star Wars history and arguably the most requested by fans for new content. This is where things get messy, folks. According to the official description, this is when a schism within the Jedi leads to the creation of the Sith in this epic era. Translation: some Jedi get power hungry, embrace the dark side, and said peace out to their meditation buddies. Thus began thousands of years back and forth galactic warfare that makes the Skywalker saga look like a weekend scuffle. In the Legends timeline, numerous galactic conflicts such as two Sith Wars, the Mandalorian Wars, and the Jedi Civil War happened throughout this massive era. We're talking about epic battles with armies of Sith Lords, not just two like in the movies, ancient superweapons that make the Death Star look cute, and Jedi Mandalorian conflicts that would make the Mandalorian's helmet spin. This is also when the infamous Rule of Two was established. After the Sith kept backstabbing each other, literally, and losing to the Jedi, Darth Bane said, "Enough of this nonsense," and decreed there only be two Siths at a time. A master and an apprentice, one to embody power, the other to crave it. This brilliant move let the Sith hide in the shadows for 1,000 years, plotting their revenge while the Jedi got fat and happy thinking they'd won. Spoiler alert, they hadn't. The era gave us legendary characters that fans still obsess over today. Besides Revan, the Jedi turned Sith turned Jedi again, whose story makes Anakin's fall look like a minor stumble. We've got Darth Nihilus, who literally ate planets with the Force, Darth Shan, held together by pure hatred and looking like beef jerky, and Bastila Shan, whose battle meditation could turn the tide of entire wars. These aren't your grandpa's Sith Lords sitting in chairs and cackling. These were warriors who fought on the front lines. The crazy part? Lucasfilm has yet to release a canon project within this era since Disney took over. But with the Knights of the Old Republic remake potentially on the horizon and fans literally begging for Old Republic content, it's only a matter of time before we dive back into this legendary period. For now, the closest we've gotten is name drops and Easter eggs. Remember Revan's Legion in Rise of Skywalker? That's a nod to one of the most famous characters from this era, a Jedi turned Sith turned Jedi again whose story is so complex it makes Anakin's fall look straightforward. The High Republic, Star Wars' current darling in the era that proves the Jedi used to be actually good at their jobs. Set roughly 200 to 400 years before the Phantom Menace, this is the Jedi Order at their absolute peak. Think of it as the Jedi's glory days, when they weren't constantly putting out fires and actually had time for proper lunch breaks. The official description paints a beautiful picture. Under the protection of the Jedi Knights and the wise rule of the Senate, the Republic grows into a golden age. The vast Outer Rim beckons the intrepid seeking to discover new worlds and spread the optimism of the Republic. The era kicked off in 2021 with Charles Soule's novel, Light of the Jedi, and has since exploded into a massive multimedia project spanning books, comics, and soon live action with the Acolyte series. The High Republic Multimedia Initiative created and expanded on this period that bridges the tumultuous times of the Old Republic and the events that happened right before the Phantom Menace. What makes this era special? For starters, the Jedi are explorers and peacekeepers, not generals. They wear rad white and gold robes. Fashion upgrade! They're stationed all across the galaxy at outposts like Starlight Beacon, and they actually seem happy? It's weird seeing Jedi who aren't constantly stressed about galactic war. But, of course, this is Star Wars, so paradise can't last. The era faces threats from the Nihil, space Vikings basically, the Drengir, evil plant monsters, yes, really, and mysterious dark side cults that are definitely not ominous foreshadowing at all. Wink wink. The Acolyte, set at the tail end of this era about 100 years before Episode 1, promises to show us how this golden age starts to tarnish. Because if there's one thing Star Wars teaches us, it's that good times never last when there are Sith lurking in the shadows. Welcome to the era where everything goes wrong, officially known as the Fall of the Jedi, though you probably know it as the prequel trilogy era. This is where we meet little Annie, watch him grow up, fall in love, and then, well, you know. Too dark? Moving on! The official timeline describes this period as beginning with the return of a long-forgotten menace and centers on a full-scale war with the Jedi Knights at the front lines. That long-forgotten menace? Our boy Palpatine pulling the greatest long con in galactic history. This era spans from the Phantom Menace through Revenge of the Sith, plus the Clone Wars animated series that fills in those crucial 3 years between episodes 2 and 3. And let me tell you, if you haven't watched Clone Wars, you're missing out on some of the best Star Wars content ever made. It transforms Anakin from whiny teen to tragic hero and actually makes his fall believable. The tragedy of this era isn't just Anakin's transformation into Darth Vader. It's watching an entire galactic democracy crumble from within. The Jedi, despite their power, are so blinded by tradition and dogma that they can't even see the Sith Lord literally running the government. It's like watching a slow-motion train wreck where the train is democracy and the wreck is, well, everyone dies. Key events: the Clone Wars, obviously, Order 66, R.I.P. Jedi, and the transformation of the Republic into the Empire. In the span of just 13 years, we go from aggressive negotiations to younglings meeting lightsabers. It's Shakespeare, but in space with more CGI. If The Fall of the Jedi was the tragedy, The Reign of the Empire is the horror movie sequel. This era covers the 19 years between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope, and boy are they rough years for anyone who isn't a fan of fascism. This era starts right after Order 66 and is characterized by the darkness and injustice which covers almost the entire galaxy. The surviving Jedi are on the run or in hiding as the Galactic Empire quickly extends its reach, exploiting the weak and suppressing freedom everywhere they can. This is prime real estate for Star Wars storytelling because there's so much drama to explore. We've got Obi-Wan living as a hermit and dealing with PTSD on Tatooine. Thanks, Obi-Wan Kenobi series. We've got the Bad Batch trying to figure out their place in a galaxy that suddenly sees them as obsolete. We've got young Han Solo doing his thing in Solo, a Star Wars story, and the formation of the Rebel Alliance in Andor. Oh, let's not forget the construction of the Death Star, which took almost 2 decades because, apparently, even in a galaxy far, far away, government contracts run over budget and behind schedule. Scientist Galen Erso is forced to work on the superweapon, setting up the events of Rogue One where his daughter Jyn would eventually help steal the plans. The video games set in this era, especially the Jedi Fallen Order series, show us what it's like being a Jedi survivor. Spoiler alert, it's terrifying. Inquisitors hunting you, Vader potentially showing up to ruin your day, and don't even think about using your lightsaber in public unless you want stormtroopers for breakfast. Here we are, folks, the era that started it all. The Age of Rebellion, better known as the original trilogy, where farm boys become heroes, smugglers find their hearts, and princesses save themselves. And everyone else. Outnumbered, the rebellion spreads across the galaxy. Rebel heroes fan the flickering light of hope in a heroic stand against the evil galactic empire. This is a classic good versus evil story that launched 1,000 expanded universe novels and made us all want lightsabers for Christmas. Spanning just 4 years from The New Hope to Return of the Jedi, this era packs more iconic moments than you can shake a gaffy stick at. Death Star goes boom, twice. I am your father, Frozen Han, Jabba's sail barge, it's a trap. Basically every meme-able moment in Star Wars history. But beyond the nostalgia, this era established the template for everything that came after. The hero's journey, the redemption arc, the power of hope against overwhelming odds, it's all here. Luke's journey from whiny moisture farmer to Jedi Knight is the blueprint every subsequent protagonist tries to follow. What's fascinating is how much happens between the movies. The comics and novels reveal that the 3 years between A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back weren't just downtime. The rebels were constantly on the run, establishing and abandoning bases as the Empire hunted them relentlessly. Luke trained himself with just Obi-Wan's journals and a few holocrons, nearly falling to the dark side multiple times without proper guidance. Meanwhile, Han and Leia's relationship developed through countless near-death experiences and arguments about the Millennium Falcon's hyperdrive. The year between Empire and the Return of the Jedi, that's when the Rebel Alliance really came together, with Mon Mothma uniting disparate factions while Lando and Chewie searched the galaxy for Han. Fun fact, according to the timeline, this spot in the timeline may be short, but for many, this was where the love of Star Wars began. No kidding, this era might only cover 4 years in universe, but it created 40 plus years of fandom and hours. After the party on Endor ended and the Ewoks went home, somebody had to actually run the galaxy. Enter the New Republic era, currently being explored through The Mandalorian and its spin-offs. This is Star Wars meets the Wild West, where the good guys won, but forgot to read the How to Rebuild a Galactic Government manual. The Empire has been defeated and the emergent New Republic faces the great challenge of rebuilding and reuniting the galaxy. It is a tentative and fragile peace threatened by the remnants of the Empire. This era is fascinating because it's not about massive galactic conflicts. Yet. It's about the messy aftermath. What happens to all those Imperial loyalists? Who fills the power vacuum? How do you deprogram a generation raised on Imperial propaganda? The Mandalorian brilliantly explores this through Din Djarin's adventures with Grogu, Baby Yoda to the uninitiated. We're seeing the New Republic struggle to maintain order, former Imperials trying to claw back power, and everyone in between just trying to make a living. It's like a space western where everyone's traumatized from the war, but trying to move on. Plus, we get to see Luke at his peak Jedi Master phase, before things go south again. The beauty of this era is in the details. We see Imperial warlords carving out their own little kingdoms, the New Republic's inability to patrol the Outer Rim leading to a lawless frontier, and the early warning signs of the First Order's rise. Shows like Ahsoka reveal that Grand Admiral Thrawn is still out there, plotting his return. The Book of Boba Fett shows us the criminal underworld adapting to the power vacuum left by Jabba's death. Even seemingly disconnected events, like Moff Gideon's obsession with cloning and Grogu's blood, are setting up the eventual return of Palpatine. It's all connected, showing how a galaxy doesn't just flip a switch from Empire to Republic overnight. Dave Filoni's upcoming movie will apparently serve as the culmination of this era, bringing together characters from The Mandalorian, Ahsoka, and other shows. Basically, it's the Avengers of Star Wars TV shows, and we're here for it. The sequel trilogy era, officially known as Rise of the First Order. This is where Star Wars said, what if we did the original trilogy again, but bigger and with more lens flares? Set 30 years after Return of the Jedi, this era shows us that apparently, nobody learned anything from the last galactic civil war. The First Order emerges from the remains of the Empire, and a fledgling resistance and new generation of heroes who confront the new but familiar threat. The New Republic got complacent, the First Orders built a planet-sized Death Star, because third time's the charm, and our original heroes, well, they tried their best. This era introduces Rey, Finn, and Poe, the new generation tasked with cleaning up the galaxy's recurring fascism problem. We watch Rey discover her Force abilities, Finn break his stormtrooper conditioning, and Poe fly really well and look good doing it. The big twist, Palpatine was behind it all along. Again, the film follows Rey, Finn, and Poe Dameron as they lead the remnants of the Resistance in a final stand against Supreme Leader Kylo Ren and the First Order, who are allied by the resurrected Sith Lord, Emperor Palpatine. Because if there's one thing Star Wars loves, It's bringing back supposedly dead villains. Love them or hate them, the sequels gave us some stunning visuals, complex themes about legacy and identity, and the conclusion to the Skywars saga. Plus, they made billions of dollars, so Disney's probably okay with how they turned out. Here we are at the newest addition to the timeline, the new Jedi Order era set 15 years after the rise of Skywalker. This is where Skywalker, yeah, she took the name, deal with it, attempts to rebuild the Jedi Order from scratch. No pressure, right? A new film directed by Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy was announced that will follow Rey as she attempts to rebuild the Jedi Order following the events of the rise of Skywalker. Finally, we'll see what happens when you try to restart a religious order with just some old texts and whatever Force Ghost advice Luke provides. This era is essentially a blank slate. Will Rey learn from the mistakes of the old Jedi Order? Will she allow attachments? Will the dress code be more flexible? Those robes looked itchy. The possibilities are endless, and that's what makes this era so exciting. The big question, what new threats will emerge? Because if Star Wars has taught us anything, it's that there's always another big bad waiting in the wings. Maybe it's time for something completely different. Force-sensitive space pirates? Interdimensional invaders? A chain of badly run Jedi academies? The galaxy's the limit. And there you have it. 25,000 plus years of Star Wars history condensed into less than 20 minutes. From the dawn of the Force to Rey's new beginning, we've seen empires rise and fall, heroes emerge and sacrifice, and way too many planet-destroying weapons for anyone's comfort. What's beautiful about this official timeline is how it shows Star Wars isn't just the Skywalker story anymore. With new eras to explore, we could get movies and shows set thousands of years before or after anything we've seen. Medieval Jedi? Post-apocalyptic Force users? The possibilities are as infinite as the stars themselves. So, whether you're excited for Mangold's biblical Force epic, hoping for Old Republic content, or just waiting to see what Rey does next, remember, the Force will be with you, always. And so will new Star Wars content, because Disney didn't spend $4 billion to stop making it now. Did I miss your favorite era detail? Think the sequel trilogy should be erased from the timeline? Sound off in the comments below. And hey, if you enjoyed this deep dive into galactic history, hit that subscribe button faster than the Millennium Falcon making the Kessel Run. Or faster than I tried to make that sentence. We've got plenty more Star Wars content coming your way. Until next time, may the Force be with you, and remember, there's always a bigger timeline.